All right, cool. That was YMCA, Village People, 1978. Okay. Yeah, welcome to the ZetaChain monthly update. My name is Jonathan Covey. I contribute to community at ZetaChain, and we do these calls to review key developments in the Zeta ecosystem, the blockchain protocol itself, product features and updates, developers building in the ecosystem. And we posted an agenda if you want to check out our Twitter feed. We are, and we're joined by a number of contributors to the ZetaChain ecosystem who can share more on these topics. Few quick announcements before we jump in. I think it's worth celebrating a pretty big week in the global crypto industry. Strong support for from users, of course, who want access to crypto, and I think growing support from governments around the world, and the industry is promising, and ZetaChain's role in within this and our mission is to build the universal blockchain with native access to any blockchain, making crypto accessible, diverse, and as connected as the internet. And we're making a bunch of progress towards that goal. We just released the October monthly recap. 150 million transactions passed on the blockchain, 4 million unique users, and a whole bunch of other achievements. So check that out. And if you're going to DevCon next week, ZetaChain will be there. We're doing a universal blockchain party on Monday and a bunch of stuff throughout the week. And the foundation is actually flying in a couple of lucky community members. Shout out to Crypto Charming and GTeeks. We're very excited to meet you at DevCon. So with that, let's jump into protocol engineering updates. We have Dennis Vadiv, who contributes to DevX, on the panel here. Dennis, maybe start and talk about the ZetaChain mission with respect to developers and why they might choose to build on ZetaChain, so they can access all blockchains and users in Web3.
Hey everyone. So ZetaChain is a platform for universal apps. It's CVM compatible, and it is essentially a place for you to build applications that are omni-chain by default, which means you build a smart contract the same way you would build on Ethereum, but on ZetaChain, the same contract has these superpowers essentially to be able to accept token transfers and contract calls from other chains connected to ZetaChain, like Ethereum, BNB, Base, Bitcoin, Solana, soon Ton, and others, which means that you're writing a single application, but you get users from all these blockchains using your app natively. They're able to transfer tokens, call, make smart contract calls, and your app in turn can make outgoing smart contract calls uh, to other contracts on connected chains. So for example, a base user can make a call to your app, and then as a response, you can make a call to Uniswap on Ethereum, which is super powerful because users are on all these blockchains, right? They have assets on different blockchains, but they might want to use an app on a chain that they don't have assets on yet, or they're not just comfortable using the wallet for that specific chain. With ZetaChain, they don't have to switch wallets. They can just use the wallet that they already have on the chain that they're already on. and your app essentially orchestrates all these complex cross-chain transactions to help users accomplish what they want.
Thanks. Yeah, and universal apps are EVM compatible, so familiar developer experience. Deploy once on ZetaChain, access users everywhere, even on non-EVM like Solana soon, and non-smart chains like Bitcoin. There's the gateway upgrades that some of the contributor engineers are working on. I saw you posted a tutorial for local net. Can you catch us up on what gateway is and how that will improve DevX?
Yeah, Gateway is a contract on every connected chain and on ZetaChain, which acts as a single point of entry for users and other contracts to interact with your universal app on ZetaChain. Um, in the past, we had a TSS address which you had to transfer tokens to separately, and an ERC20 custody for when you want to interact with ERC20 tokens. And this was a bit confusing because um, we wanted to have kind of a unified interface for developers to be able to interact with universal apps easily. With Gateway, that's exactly how it works right now. So on Ethereum, you're interacting with the gateway, and it has methods like deposit and call. Um, Call if you want to make a call without any assets. Um, Other chains, similar contracts, and on Zeta Chain, you have also a gateway with a slightly different set of features, like withdraw and call. So you can make calls in both directions and transfer assets. So it has become so much easier to build dApps on ZetaChain. Um, in fact, I built 3 examples in the past 2 weeks while doing other stuff. So it was like really straightforward, and I enjoyed um, all of it, and it just works. And yeah, I think other developers are gonna enjoy it very much as well. And as you mentioned, LocalNet, for those who are not familiar, is a relatively new tool that we've developed, which just launches a local blockchain, specifically Foundry's Anvil, and it has gateways deployed on it, simulating an environment where, as if you had multiple blockchains, and you can build universal apps on your laptop without ever having to touch a real testnet. And it's like a billion times faster because it's just a local blockchain, so you don't have to worry about transactions being processed and it taking time. So it's very easy to use and very efficient for like these quick iterations when you want to change something, you want to reset the state of everything, deploy your contract, and you can do it as frequently as you want. Uh, this way, experimenting becomes very easy, especially something new like Gateway, where you want to test out different things and see how it works. So right now we have 2 blockchains on local nets, and the next version, which is already available as a pre-release, we have 3 EVM blockchains, so it's easier to simulate transactions going from one EVM chain to another through ZetaChain. So yeah, the developer experience has improved dramatically with both of these additions.
Nice work. Yeah, and if you want to know about latest releases like Gateway, you can check out Developer Zone and Discord. There's a feed of changes that we're pushing to ZetaChain, and then check out the documentation and the tutorials that Dennis is creating on. Those are posted to our YouTube. Another one that you pushed was the Universal app uh, or sorry, the support for NFTs in Universal apps. Catch us up on what this is and um, uh, how it will be available to different builders like Plugman. I see your profile picture here. What has been this development around NFT?
So universal NFT means an NFT that you can mint on any blockchain and then permissionlessly move it to a different blockchain. So it's a system of uh, ERC 721s that have this additional feature of being able to be transferred to another chain. So we've created a tutorial and an example project that demos how you can use the features provided by the gateway to implement something like this. So it's a regular ERC 721 that was enhanced with the features of the gateway, and you can use it already on localnet. So if you go to our docs website and tutorials, there's a new NFT example, and you can try it yourself locally. It it's very easy to understand. The code is very straightforward. You just mint an NFT on any chain you want, then um, execute a function which burns the NFT, sends a message to a different chain, and a trusted counterparty contract that you have deployed previously mints in exactly the same NFT. Um, and of course, if you have more logic on the destination chain and maybe for some reason it reverts, the contract, of course, supports revert handling, thanks to the gateway's built-in revert mechanism. So the NFT will be minted back to the sender if something goes wrong. So this uh, offers a pretty robust mechanism for transferring NFT, but it, of course, it can be used for other things as well. So this is kind of a first in a series of examples that we'll be shipping in the next few weeks, and hopefully this will cover most, well, not most, but many of the use cases, because NFTs are pretty big, and enabling these cross-chain NFT transfer, I think, is a must for an interoperability system like ZetaChain.
Yeah, and Plugman, the composable character collection across different chains, is or will be one of the first adopters of this new primitive. So you can check them out to learn more. On the dev tooling side, you're also spending time with ecosystem partners like Tenderly and doing workshops on how to build on ZetaChain with those services. Curious, like, how's the state of dev tooling and infra on ZetaChain right now, and any missing pieces or stuff the ecosystem is working to stand up for devs?
So I think we have a pretty good set of tools already. As you mentioned, Tenderly supports ZetaChain out of the box, and we have oracles, indexers, RPC providers, and um, a lot of tooling for data retrieval, which is of course important if you're building any sort of user-facing application, right? You need to query the data. So a lot of these services are um, already available. What we're focusing on right now, I mean, the, the core contributors are focusing on right now is also making sure that's all the new blockchains that are being connected to ZetaChain can also be used with tools like LocalNet. We have EVM support, but we need to add ton support and Solana support next, which is pretty big undertaking. So looking forward to having that, just to be able to streamline the development even further and kind of simulate uh, a real environment locally.
Nice. And as you think about November and the rest of the year, is there one thing that sticks out to you that you're most excited about on the tech side?
I think adding support. So Solana, for those who don't know, Solana is already supported on testnet. The gateway is deployed. You can, for example, use it with the swap example. But I think adding features like SPL token support is going to be huge because um, there are a lot of interesting tokens on Solana, right? It's not just Sol. So this will expand the ways in which the chain can be used, um, and of course the con support, which is coming, is super exciting, and I think everyone wants to see this on testnet and play with it and see what can be built with this. And of course, all these chains will have gateway, so the features that you can use right now on EVM and kind of start getting into this development environment, the same functionality is going to be eventually available on all the smart contract enabled chains. So from developer experience point of view, I'm looking forward to more examples that developers can use out of the box in production. So right now we have these examples which you can um, use to learn about how to build stuff, but I think it would be really cool for us to also offer uh, production ready templates that developers can use and build on top of. So yeah, we're also working on that.
Nice. Thank you. Yeah, it's going to be a huge development with Solana. And speaking of chain support updates, um, we also have Dimitri, who contributes to protocol engineering on the panel here.
Hey there.
Hey. Working on Ton specifically, a lot of research and development. Dimitri, you want to give a quick intro on how you contribute to the network?
Sure. So I do protocol engineering, uh, and right now I'm focused on bringing Ton to cross-chain, on ZetaChain, Solana, EVM, Bitcoin, and beyond. And yep, that's it, quickly.
Nice. And yeah, you've been pushing research from your personal handle on ton signatures and compatibility with ZetaChain. Catch us up on what this integration looks like and why, in the first place, is ZetaChain looking to integrate ton?
Sure. So briefly, Ton is like a native Telegram blockchain right now. And Telegram is huge. I would say Telegram is like crypto native messenger, right? And so we want to unlock like a massive user base with this integration because as of now, Ton's ecosystem is kind of siloed. So you cannot easily breach assets and call contracts cross chain. So you probably need to go to some kind of centralized breach or centralized exchange to purchase Ton and move it from and to the net. Also, Ton is pretty a tech-savvy product, so it's like fast, scalable. It supports sharding and has a pretty low cost fees in terms of transactions. And the ecosystem is really vibrant. It develops really, really fast. And yeah, we want to be on the edge. And that's why I think bringing it on will unlock a lot of new opportunities for DeFi builders and for users.
Thanks. Yeah. And so, like, it's been described, this integration, like ZetaChain's an EVM layer to Ton. You can deploy on ZetaChain and have access to EVM, non-EVM, non-smart chains. Maybe like get a little bit into the weeds of how ZetaChain generates outbound transactions to external chains with the TSS and what this looks like with Ton.
Yeah, sure. So the core tech of ZetaChain is so-called TSS, Threshold Signature Scheme. It's a multi-party computation technology. And the main caveat when integrating with Ton is that actually Ton uses different elliptic curves, and it was challenging to support cross-chain transactions with what we have. And like, if you're aware, like Bitcoin and Ethereum, they use the CDSA signatures. and Ton and Solana, they use EDDSA. So most wallets on Ton, I would say not most, like all wallets on Ton, they work differently. So from the technical point of view, each wallet on Ton is to deploy a smart contract. What we gotta do is like, we will sign transactions within our TSS using ECDSA signatures, and then we're gonna like recover those signatures on chain to validate that the transaction is authentic from ZetaChain and so on. So yeah, it was a bit challenging to implement because I think we are the first product ever within Ton ecosystem that actually implements this. And I don't want to brag, but like I think we're gonna be the single open source cross-chain product on Ton, because right now it might be challenging to find open source samples. And yeah, we're gonna be the first. We're gonna be audited, secure, open sourced. Yeah, so I'm really excited to bring it as soon as possible. And yeah, sorry, what was the second question?
No, I think you covered it. It's super exciting. If you're a Ton developer in that ecosystem, reach out to us. We want to collaborate. We're talking with devs at Solana as we work on that integration. So in terms of benefits to users, I'll be able to stay on Ton network in my Ton wallet and access universal apps on ZetaChain and interact with Bitcoin and assets from other chains without leaving Ton. How is that going to work?
Yes, correct. So I think there are two major use cases for this. First is that when you want to bring liquidity within Ton, so let's say if you want to do some staking, liquid staking, restaking, etc. Like as I said earlier, Ton is pretty siloed. And let's say you have your BTC or you have your ETH, USDT, etc., and you just cross-chain swap this to Ton, access DeFi, and then you're done. You can do it in the opposite way. You can deposit your Ton and call some arbitrary Solidity smart contract on ZetaChain. That will also might invoke other actions on connected chains such as Solana or Base. Let's say you can do cross-chain swaps from Ton to Base and vice versa. So I think it will make both ecosystems, I mean like EVM and Ton and others, way more liquid. And yep, did I answer your question?
Yeah. That's great. Super exciting. In Solana, I think there's some work happening around interoperability and interest in cross-chain, but Ton seems to be overlooked. And having a platform to build an app that works across all of these major ecosystems is going to be pretty huge. I'll ask the same question to you, what you're most excited about as we wrap up 2024. Sounds like the Ton integration, but anything else that you're pumped about?
Yeah, so Ton testnet this year for sure. And the second one, really proud of the team to bring this gateway update to mainnet. I think this is huge. Yep.
Excellent. Dimitri and Dennis, thanks for joining. Let's go into security and DevOps updates. We have Charlie McCowan, who contributes to both of these areas at ZetaChain. Charlie, what's up?
Can you guys hear me all right?
Yep, we got you. So, yeah, catch us up on one of the big developments from a few weeks ago. 1.5 billion Zeta is now anchored to the native ZetaChain mainnet. What does this mean? What's the impact on decentralization and security?
So yeah, that's one of those terms that I don't think you see thrown around in the crypto world very much. It's like anchoring an asset. And so, right, the way the Zeta token currently works, it's a token that can move back and forth across multiple chains. You can have Zeta on Ethereum, you can have Zeta on the Zeta chain itself, or over on BSC. And what we've done is essentially, instead of allowing unlimited mint between all these chains, it's now configured so that a good chunk of these are anchored to the ZetaChain mainnet. And that means rather than their users relying on the security of these external networks, that these tokens are now anchored into the ZetaChain mainnet, and they are secured by our, I think, 100 active validators. Some of which we just had some other great names join that group. But essentially, it's just moving where those are secured, and yeah, I mean that's basically it.
Nice, cool. Yeah, you mentioned validators, and I think people in the community are seeing some big updates, like Coinbase launching a validator on ZetaChain, Animoca Brands, the biggest Web3 gaming investor. Maybe like high level for people that are not familiar, how does validation work on a chain like ZetaChain, and what's the impact of some of these enterprises launching validators on the network?
Yeah. For those who don't know, so validators are essentially doing the work of helping produce blocks for the network. So there's 100 active validators at any time. They are all basically viewing and processing transactions and agreeing upon what the outcome of those transactions are. They communicate that block, and then they kind of just keep doing that over and over and over again at a very high level. And we've got a pretty diverse validator group, which is really nice to see. So we've got, yeah, some huge names like Coinbase and Amoca Brands. Then we've got a bunch of validators who, unless you're involved in the validator like ecosystem, you wouldn't even know them, but they're really big on other chains, right? They've been around the space for a while, but they're just smaller shops. I know some of the validators are, teams of 20, 100 people, like probably with Coinbase, and then some are just one or two people running these validators and doing an excellent job of it. So we have this really diverse group. Um, And the other part of the question was, oh, I guess kind of why that matters, right?
Hmm. Yeah.
Yep. And so obviously as a ZetaChain, we want the ZetaChain network to be used by a wide group of people. And so I think what this shows is that it is appealing to all types of parties, right? Whether they're individual users, growing independent developers, or these large institutions like Coinbase and Mocha Brands who kind of really see the value of ZetaChain and want to participate in that. And it's not just that they want to get involved today by setting up a validator, right? They want to get involved for the future and grow with us.
Yeah, and there's some other unique angles for these companies like Animoca Brands, the alignment with growing decentralization and Web3. All of their gaming developers can come to ZetaChain. Coinbase, of course, one of the biggest exchanges in the world, also pledging support for the universal blockchain mission. So, big stamp of credibility. Want to talk about like monitoring and security. Like one of the special things about blockchain being anonymous and decentralized also creates risk challenges like scams and bad actors. So as someone leading DevOps and security of ZetaChain, what's the approach and like tech stack around this for monitoring the chain?
Yes, the approach is never sleep. Um, so yeah, it's Web3 monitoring is challenging because in the traditional world, right, you run a server, you simply watch that server, you understand what's going on, and done with it. Maybe you observe traffic from users. In the decentralized Web3 world, you have to monitor and understand what's happening on other people's servers as well as the network itself. And with all monitoring, kind of the important parts is identifying what are the important components of a system, and then identifying the important metrics and values of those various components. And then you just have to build, and build. So you build out some custom tooling. You might be able to use some existing stuff. So we have a pretty big open source tool stack using Grafana and Prometheus. We've built a custom exporter that essentially queries the network and pulls values back and stores them in Grafana time series databases. And a lot of this stuff, the goal is we want to actually be able to open source this and share it with the community. We're not quite there yet. It's not quite pretty enough, but we're going to make it so it can be consumed by anybody. They could set up their own monitoring and understand exactly what's going on with the network in ways that may not be displayed on like one of our explorers.
Awesome. And I think there's been some implementations of bots in Discord and Telegram and various chats for alerts and stuff. What were some of the developments there?
Yeah, so communication is a huge part, right? If there's going to be any scheduled maintenance, if there's any problems people should be aware of, it's how do you, when you're a decentralized network, how do you share that out with everyone? So we've put together some bots that help spread the message. The best place though is we have our status page, status.zetachain.com, where we post anything about around maintenance. And then the bot helps spread that message out a little further. It can reach out to our validators directly if there's a governance proposal being made, if it's time for an upgrade, that type of stuff.
Cool. And what are you looking forward to most on the ZetaChain roadmap end of year?
Yeah, so you've heard it a bunch, but the gateway contracts I think are super cool. I haven't played around with them as much as I would have liked to, but they're pretty straightforward and easy to use for the little bit I got to touch on. I'm really excited to see how devs bring that, how devs play with it. It does seem to improve the developer experience extensively. I know Dennis has built, like I said, talking about omnichain NFTs, he's built a lot of really cool stuff very quickly with it. I think lowering that barrier to entry and helping bring more developers on board is going to be really awesome.
Excellent. Cool. Well, that's Charlie contributing to security and DevOps. Some big news coming around validation on ZetaChain, so stay tuned for that. Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Cool. Moving into product updates. You've heard from Brandon Churong before. He is on the panel. He contributes to all things product at ZetaChain. There's been a lot of developments across different products, like Zeta Docs, for example. We're always pushing new tutorials and updates to the documentation, and we actually did a revamp on the user interface a couple weeks ago. Brandon, catch us up on some of the changes there. Like maybe review what is Zeta Docs and what are the latest changes.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, Dennis did a pretty good walkthrough of a lot of the updates on the content in ZetaDocs, but at a high level, ZetaDocs is where a developer needs to go to learn how to build with ZetaChain. And that is kind of spread across a bunch of different verticals. So one, validation, operation that Charlie was just mentioning, the actual development, dev tools, tutorials, examples, videos, how to use the local net, etc. One big update from the past month was, it might be simple, but quality of life improvement for a lot of developers in adding a sidebar where you can browse through all of the growing library of docs that Dennis is continually adding to. So that's a great improvement. And I think the high level vision for Zeta Docs is essentially to lower the barrier to building on ZetaChain and thereby on crypto across chains. So imagine you have an idea, I want to launch a universal NFT. You should be able to hop in and use that standard that Dennis is currently building out and be able to go live with your NFT across all chains without really having to worry too much, like having those shoulders to stand on development wise, and then being able to go deeper into the nitty gritty as you need. But yeah, I think overall, as Dennis mentioned, we do have a lot of the tooling already. A lot of the work now is building out those standards. So developers or creators interested in going universal have the means to do so.
Cool. Yeah. And you talk about ease of deployment. I think that touches on the universal kit and some of the work happening on that. Any development on universal kit and what we're trying to do there?
Yeah, so I mentioned the universal NFT, universal token that we're working towards. Universal kit is the other side of building basically your front end. So, working in Web3 and deploying something that behaves, reasonably for an end user across many chains, or having that multi-chain experience actually takes a lot of development overhead. So what Universal Kit is a library of components that you can start to build, say, cross-chain swap into your app, wallet connection across many chains, balance fetching across any chain. So you have all those kind of like Lego building blocks to really just expedite your development process in the same way. So that's another place we're trying to set more standards and components. So yeah, overall, you should have all of the sides of development. Smart contract standards, front end examples, or basically components, and then the actual tooling to get a bit deeper into the actual utility for your app.
Nice. Yeah. So if you're listening and you're not a developer like me, there is still hope with Universal Kit. You can deploy apps in like a no-code way. So yeah, shifting over to Zeta Hub, the gateway into the ZetaChain ecosystem. There have been a few developments, maybe starting just like with a housekeeping call out. Omnibot and some other alerts were set up in Discord, and what was the thinking behind that, and what's new there?
Yeah, so the Zeta Hub, again, is this entry point, and I think where most users engage with that product is XP and status NFTs and instant rewards. The one missing piece from this is kind of being reminded that things are going live and understanding, what instant rewards are going live, when fuel is being refilled. Like all of these different mechanics or little games that users have to play with and earn from. Omnibot's first step towards that sort of notification system, so you can actually see in Discord now, in that channel, when people are claiming, when people are doing these activities. And the next step for that is adding in those, bigger events. So you'll be able to monitor and get notified for, oh, fuel is refilled. I can go try to claim, or I can go do my daily activity proof again. And I can get into some of these other features that we launch over the month. But the idea is to have kind of more live feedback and reminders, kind of like push notifications on mobile, so you can stay updated rather than having to come inbound to check things, because we understand like everyone has so many things going on, and crypto in general just has so much, not noise, but so much activity. So helping users figure out what's going on live is the goal there.
Yep. And you mentioned daily activity proof. I think a lot of users were reaching out, asking about this update. What's the 101 on daily activity proof?
Yeah, so also in an effort to have more ways for people to engage and see what's going on in Zeta Hub day to day, this is a super easy daily check-in that you can do to kind of prove your liveness. And this is all on chain, so it's traceable. And so the mechanism right now is you can come in, check in, and if you reach the threshold of required check-ins, say the past 3 days now, you'll be eligible to claim fuel. So one side is engagement and having just something simple to do and visit for. The other side is more, there's been a lot of complaints of fuel getting depleted very quickly. So this is a way to help gate that and bring fuel to more actually active users on chain. So yeah, it's a simple addition, but we think it's fun, and seeing the community feedback so far it's been pretty positive. I know there have been some questions, but hopefully that clears things up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let us know your feedback, and we'll continue to optimize fuel. So in the October recap we pushed this morning, one of the achievements was over 200,000 claims on instant rewards. Maybe a quick recap. What is instant rewards, and what's kind of the next big thing as we get into November?
Yeah, so it's coming up on, I think, a month since we launched instant rewards. And yeah, obviously, like from those numbers, community has been simply earning and liking instant rewards. And so just to recap, instant rewards is this new model of earning by engaging with ZetaChain apps, where you are constantly doing these XP tasks and earning XP. That helps you build status, but instead of having that status or XP or points make people just speculate on some larger unknown airdrop in the future, this is an instant way to just earn as you are doing activity on chain. So right now you can go into XP on Zeta Hub and you can do an activity, and we can talk about some of the activities later, but you can do the activity, and in the same way you were claiming XP before, you get a reward, say 0.2 Zeta, and that can stack over time, week to week. So say if you are doing a task for staking, people might be calculating their rewards rate, say like 6% or whatever that is, estimated of emissions on chain right now. On top of that, by accomplishing this task, you can get that boost of, say, 0.2 rewards. So that's kind of a summary of instant rewards right now. Where it's going, it's a few things: more daily ways to engage, kind of like daily activity proof. And then another feature the team's working towards is a way where you can actually vote on what instant rewards are allocated to. So apps will have different tasks that are kind of proposed, and the community can vote, like say, hey, I want this trading task to be where the instant rewards are allocated because that's where I find the most utility. So that'll be super cool to launch. It's still in development, but getting pretty close.
Yeah, the governance aspect is really interesting, I think. And then, yeah, like big picture, instant rewards, to me, it's like a fun learn to earn model for interacting with ZetaChain and different apps coming out in the ecosystem, free gas. And beyond that, you're building your loyalty profile. And, a lot of these apps are doing TGEs like BitSmiley and hiring people for community and BD, and it's a good way to position yourself to contribute to projects that are building on ZetaChain beyond just the instant reward. Speaking of like dev ecosystem, there's been a lot of sort of grassroots experiments and apps being pushed. Alex Voyage, I think there's one that went live today. Nest Egg is another one, like a meme Telegram proof of engagement kind of app. Plugman, we talked about, sold out their NFT collection last month. What are you seeing on the dev ecosystem side?
Yeah, totally. I mean, in summary, it's really ramping up, and I think you and the community is seeing this. Um, I think at a high level, so ZetaChain's launch of mainnet was in February. I think a lot of the initial months were kind of focused on building out core infrastructure, validator ecosystem, and getting that baseline of infra security in place for developers. So now, especially the past couple months, a lot of developers are starting to come in and have the tooling they need that Dennis has been building, have the infrastructure they need to build and ship really quickly. So something like Alex Voyage was a community experiment where you could send your base ETH from base to ZetaChain to help Alex, their mascot, launch their rocket ship and make his trip over to ZetaChain. And that community is growing now. I think they're launching another project in the next couple of days. If you guys are involved in that, you should check out their Discord. But yeah, I think overall, people are starting to have the tooling they need to build very quickly. As I said, that's kind of the goal with Dev Experience and ZetaDocs. So even Nest Egg, you can see they're launching a Telegram mini app, but that has ZetaChain integration. You can mint an NFT on ZetaChain, and they're also planning on expanding this into more ways to engage, even from many different chains. So if you see Telegram mini apps as a way to grow user bases as a developer, like you have access to the entire Telegram community. Now you not only have access to Ton, but through ZetaChain, you could start integrating interactions from many different chains very easily. So that kind of leads into all of these apps, even if they're starting just as a simple deployment on ZetaChain, have very powerful and easy to use tools to start bringing in engagement or liquidity or any sort of activity really from other chains. So you'll see that with Alex Voyage, Nest Egg. There's a bunch I think Alex will also talk about as well that are starting to go live. And more just on a community ramp up perspective, things like Alex Voyage, Nest Egg, and I think you mentioned Plugman as well, which sold out in I don't know how many minutes. All of these are starting to see these communities and subcultures grow. So I'm personally very excited to see where those communities go from here, especially because they kind of have a wider reach or like these tentacles into different chains, which is pretty interesting to me.
Love it. Awesome. And as we come across different experiments in the dev ecosystem and cool apps, we will do our best to share that with the community. So yeah, ZetaChain roadmap 2024. What are you looking forward to most?
Yeah, I'm just repeating what everyone else said, but the main thing to me is, so I mean, a lot of the core contributors here talk to a lot of developers in the ecosystem pretty much every day. And there are a lot of asks for certain use cases like, hey, I want to build this and that. And I truly believe or like understand that Gateway is unlocking a lot of those use cases that were just not possible before. Like a simple one is, or not a simple one, but a common one has been kind of like a yield aggregator across chains. Before, the functionality did not allow that, but now with Gateway, you can start building, say, like orchestrating different positions across many different chains on behalf of a user, aggregating that to just the user's account on ZetaChain, and things of that nature, which I think really complete the the vision of what ZetaChain's trying to do, like letting you do things across all chains or leverage opportunities across all chains in one place, whether you're a developer or user. So that's super exciting to me. Like all of the apps I mentioned, I think have some way or ideas to use Gateway moving forward. So very excited to see how the next few months after Gateway goes live on mainnet are for app ecosystem.
Awesome. And yeah, we'll keep you guys updated on the Gateway upgrades. Very cool. Thanks for joining, Brandon. Okay, going into the last section on ecosystem, we got Alex Kim, the real Alex Kim, back on stage with a new profile picture, it looks like. Very attractive. Hey, Alex.
Hey everyone. Yeah, I hope the new profile picture doesn't scare people. I changed it last week and I didn't realize that I just completely forgot about it.
So, yeah, where can we start? I catch us up on conversations you're having in the ecosystem, and specifically, we talked about Coinbase launching a validator on ZetaChain, and some of these big brands helping secure ZetaChain. How has that impacted conversations with developers and the credibility of ZetaChain?
Sure. So I think it's really important to mention that a lot of these results, like Coinbase being a validator on ZetaChain and having their support, as well as what you mentioned previously with the grassroots campaign of finding these teams that are able to build out some of the special products, considering our significant value add to the space, just speaks volumes as to how well ZetaChain is doing, how serious ZetaChain is in a very competitive landscape, and the interest that we're getting from outside partners as well as overall users and developers in the Web3 ecosystem right now. Um, yeah, I think a lot of what we're building at ZetaChain is geared towards long-term value and it's geared towards significantly fixing and improving the UI UX of the current Web3 ecosystem and a lot of the current Web3 processes, and that will only take time to really target the users and to get them acclimated to some of the builds that we're creating with ZetaChain.
Nice. Yeah, and Coinbase is also a way for ZetaChain to get into institutional and the corporate world, which will take more time for things to mature. But we're seeing a lot of exciting developments this year and this past week specifically around that, and it positions ZetaChain for those opportunities. So we spoke about some of the experiments and guerrilla projects happening in ZetaChain, but there are also some legit use cases, like the Facebooks and Amazons coming out of Web 2 era, if you will. Something like a native Bitcoin-backed stablecoin. Catch us up on some of the big use cases that are developing on Zeta.
Sure. So I think there's a couple that we could mention here, but I'll start by giving an update on BitSmiley. So for anyone who's just tuning in, or for anyone, if anyone's listening and it's their first time they've ever heard of a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin, right now the process of a Bitcoin-backed stablecoin is actually considered wrapped or a bridge version of Bitcoin. Users have to custody or stake or lock some of their native Bitcoin and they receive a wrapped version or equivalent, and then they would have to go somewhere else to deposit that wrapped Bitcoin as well. I think it just creates a lot of convoluted processes that are quite unnecessary. What we worked on with BitSmiley, and we've been talking about this for several weeks, is BitSmiley and our protocol team have been working quite closely together to contribute to the overall code for Zeta Client to enable true native Bitcoin deposits to mint out their stablecoin BitUSD on Zeta Chain, on an EVM chain, in one single click. So this has been in the works for quite some time now, and I just want to say they recently TGE just yesterday on 5 different exchanges, and it just speaks to volumes about the potential of their project, the team, the quality of what they're building, etc. And happy to say that we are planning our testnet campaign now, which should go live anytime in the next month or so. So this will allow users to receive testnet Bitcoin and start experimenting and start showcasing a much more significant value add than what we've already had on the ecosystem, right? Being able to use testnet Bitcoin, using any of your Bitcoin wallets, and then redeeming and then instantly receiving BitUSD on your EVM wallet. Two other really interesting use case that I'm very passionate about is cross-chain lending. So we've been working with several stealth teams for this, and we have one that's about to be ready. And it's as simple as users supplying a native asset from any chain and then borrowing that same native gas asset or stable on any other chain in one single click. So instead of having a CDP version or maybe going through multiple steps using third-party bridges or different aggregators and routers for this process, it's as simple as ZetaChain under the hood, supplying any asset from any of our connected chains and borrowing an asset from any of our connected chains as well in one single click. And the final use case is a reward or yield aggregator. Um, I think this is quite interesting. A lot of the current yield aggregators are currently siloed between each chain, meaning that a yield aggregator can really only work with the ecosystems or DFs in one chain, but users can't necessarily have opportunities on a different chain without having to go through another third-party bridge and then reconnecting their wallets, switching networks, etc. But one thing that we're working on with the gateway contracts, and one of the first use cases of the gateway contracts is one of the stealth teams we're working with to build out this yield aggregator where users can, on a money market, on Base or ETH, for example, can use their USDC, call the gateway contracts, and send that over to, let's say, a money market on Ava or Base for additional yield opportunities if they so want to as well. I think this is the perfect use case for gateway contracts, and I think it's a significant value add given the current yield aggregator landscape as well. I'm very excited to showcase that off soon.
Click into the lending thing for a second. Like, there's so much marketing fluff out there, and projects say they do cross-chain lending when in reality there's like wrap tokens and bridges, or a lot of these things are just not even functional. Like, we're testing them every day. Talk more about like how ZetaChain works with the BTC use case, and any other insights about this use case.
Yeah, so I think there's two things here. So one is the current processes with existing lending markets, and second is the native Bitcoin side of things. So the most popular lending market, and I don't want to name out anyone in particular, but omni-chain or cross-chain capabilities to them is more focused on their stablecoin, meaning that a user can collateralize some of these assets or tokens from the chain that they're deployed on, and depending on the collateralization, they're able to mint out the stablecoin. It's important to note that a CDP stablecoin is in itself sort of like it's like a 50% incomplete lending market. So their definition of these lending markets are omni-chain or currently marketing themselves as cross-chain is collateralizing different assets to mint out a stablecoin. And then that stablecoin is using a standard messaging protocol that's live on the different chains that they're connected to, and then redeeming that stablecoin for a different asset on a different chain. I think this is quite I don't think it's necessary. I think a lending market should be as simple as supplying one asset, receiving one asset. That's it. I don't think a user should have to go through the process of collateralizing, them receiving something, then sending it over to a different chain, then redeeming it for a borrowed asset. I don't think it makes a lot of sense for a lot of users as well. And actually, I don't think it contributes or helps resolve some of the shared values of Web3, which is to make it accessible and target and bring in as many Web2 users as much as possible. This is not a Web2 process. It is still very Web3 native. And in order for us to really reach those users, we need to redefine the UI UX of these current DeFi dApps as well. On the native Bitcoin side, I mean, I think it's really simple. I think we're seeing a lot more ramp up of native Bitcoin use cases now. I think after the election, now there's going to be a very serious focus on the crypto landscape in general, and we're seeing a lot more progressive movement on using native Bitcoin as a strategic reserve asset in more Web2 use cases. We can certainly bring that to Web3, and using native Bitcoin to enable users to decentralize in a decentralized manner, use native Bitcoin for any other use case as well. Um, yeah, I think I could go on about this for quite some time, but I think we're restrained with some time. So
Love the passion. Yeah, we're a couple minutes over. give us your 2 cents on what you're looking forward to most with ZetaChain, or maybe just broadly in the space. We can wrap up.
Yeah, what I'm looking forward to most of ZetaChain is Gateway as well as our future chain launches. I still think there's a lot. I still think there are some things that we have to do on the ecosystem side, but overall things seem to be lining up, and this grassroots starting from the bottom up approach has been really working for us. I definitely it's very important for us to showcase our use case, and to showcase how we're different from most of our competitors with an edge that users actually care about. And it's about us pushing that product go to market and being able to share it to all of our users who are interested in ZetaChain. Without that, I don't think there will be any attention to ZetaChain at all whatsoever. So our mission collectively as a whole at ZetaChain is to make sure that we're creating these products, creating these new product innovations, creating an ecosystem that correctly uses our value add and being able to showcase it to Web3. And also, who knows, maybe we're going to be that solution that brings the Web2 users over to Web3, but we'll just have to see.
Love it. Awesome. That's a good place to wrap. I want to thank the core contributors for joining this monthly update call and everyone that came on to listen. We'll share some big updates always, particularly some cool stuff coming next week. Keep your notifications on. And yeah, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you.